When it comes to creating coloured pencil drawings, I think the number one thing people struggle with is picking the actual colours that they're going to be using. So in this video, I'm going to go through some of my past projects and show you exactly how I picked the correct colours that I used in those pieces. So let's dive straight into it. So the first project that I want to look at is my drawing of the Lego McLaren P1. And this right here is the reference photo that I used for this drawing. And these right here are all my coloured pencils. So this is the 120 set of Faber-Castell polychromos. And I know what you're thinking, I don't have 120 different colours, but the thing is the principles I'm about to share with you will still apply whether you've got a pack of 60 or 48 or even 12 colours, because you can see here that a lot of these colours are actually very similar. So technically having so many colours is bit of a waste because loads of them are so similar. So yeah, I reckon we should get into how I pick the colours for this Lego McLaren P1 drawing. So you can clearly see that the car is mostly yellow and very, very dark grey. So what I'm going to do is start by getting out all of my yellows and splitting them into 3 subcategories of light, intermediary and dark colours. So here are all my yellows organised into those 3 subcategories, and if you're wondering what intermediary colours are, they're basically colours that aren't quite as dark as the darkest colours, but then they're darker than the lightest colours. And I also want to point out that the darkest colours here are really starting to become quite orange. And one thing I did on this project as well is I actually used some browns within the shadows as well, and I wanted to use browns instead of blacks to help keep the colour saturation up, because if you go and use greys and blacks in the shadows of especially really vibrant yellow pieces, then it will reduce that color saturation, because that's what greys do. They don't have any color in them, they're just gray and black and stuff, and using browns instead just helps to make it that bit more vibrant. So now that we've got all these colors out, what we need to do is look at the reference photo and establish those 3 categories again in the reference photo. So right here you can see we've got like a highlight bit, so this is the lightest area. Down here we've got like an intermediary bit, so you can see here this has got quite an orangey tinge to it, and then on the underside here and like down here we have the very darkest section. So all I need to do is look at the colors I have, so taking this little highlighty lemon yellow kind of thing, and then we're going to take it to the reference photo in the highlight area, because this is a lighter color, and be like, is this a color that I think I can use in this drawing? And if I'm being honest, I don't think so, because it's got quite a greeny tinge to it, and I don't think it matches the colors that are present in the photo. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go put it back and no longer use it. And I'm then going to go and try out one of my intermediaries. So I'm just going to grab this one, and we're just going to move this to an intermediary section. So you can see here, this is pretty much identical to the color that is on the reference photo, so I'm definitely keeping this one out. And then I can just continue doing this throughout the entire piece, and any colors that aren't present in that section or anywhere else along the piece, I then put them back and no longer use them, and I'm then left with an arsenal of colors that I can use on my drawing. So we're all sorted for all the yellow colors, but now we need to shift our focus to doing the grays, and I basically do this in the exact same way as with the yellows, so splitting them into 3 categories of light, intermediary and dark. But in the lighter colors, I'm also including some light cobalt turquoise and some sky blue, or whatever really, really light blue that you have. And in the darkest grays, I'm also including some dark indigo and some Prussian blue. And the reason I'm doing this is so when I'm doing those gray panels, that blue really helps to bring up the color saturation of those areas, so those gray pieces don't look really, really dull in comparison to those really, really bright yellow pieces. So what I want to do now is show you how to pick the colors for human skin tones, which you can imagine is a very wide topic because there's obviously lots of different skin tones out there. But what I'm going to do is break them up into the light, intermediary and dark colors, and then you can choose whichever color from each of these categories works best for you by, again, just picking it up, putting it to your reference photo and going, okay, is this color present in the image? If it is, you can use it. If not, you can put it away. So let's dive into it. So in the highlights, I like to use the ivory, or what's left of it in my case, the beige red, the cinnamon, cold gray 1, the white, and the cold gray 2. So now we can move on to the intermediary colors, which are the coral, brown ochre, green gold, raw umber, the bistre, the nugget, some cold gray 3, cold gray 4, some sanguine, and the last intermediary, the Van Dyke brown. So finally, the darkest colors are the walnut brown, caput mortem violet, which is the funkiest name for a color ever, burnt sienna, burnt umber, and a smidge of black and dark indigo for the darkest shadows. So as I said before getting all of these out, these are the quote fleshy colors, and you can pick whichever one from each of these families works best for you. So you can just pick one from the highlights, take it to the highlights on your reference photo and go, okay, is this the color that's actually present in the photograph? And if it is, you can keep it out and use it, and if it isn't, you can put it away. And then you can do the same thing for the intermediary tones, so you can pick one of these up, put it to the reference photo, and keep doing this for like the dark ones and all of the pencils. And I hope doing this has been helpful if you're struggling to pick the colors for your human portrait drawings. So the final project I want to show you how I pick the colors for is this drawing right here that I did of my mum's horse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go round all the colors and then just point to the place where I use them. So yeah, let's dive straight into it. So I did use a little bit of the ivory around the eye here. You can see it's got that light yellow hinge to it, and I also used it within the eye as well to do a bit of the blending. I didn't actually use a lot of these yellows because obviously he's not yellow. So coming into these dark browns now, like the burnt umber, and also there's a walnut brown here somewhere. I obviously use that in the shadows, so to blend between this black shadow. So you got black shadow on the underside of the neck and obviously at the top here. So that's done with the black pencil. So the black pencil is just over here. And then I was using these, that walnut brown, the burnt umber, to blend it to those lighter browns, which we have here, like the Bistra and the Nugget, which I think is Nugget right here. And then continuing along, obviously I didn't use any of the greens because there's no green in this image. And I also use some of that raw umber as well, especially around the eye, because obviously those browns are a lot lighter. They've got a bit more of like an orangey hint to them. And then coming along, we have the beige red, which I also used around the eye just to do a bit more blending as well. And I also used this on the neck and some of the brown patches too, just to do a little bit more blending. And then continuing our way across, I did use a little bit of the cinnamon as well around the side and to blend elsewhere, because lighter colors, especially in the polychromo sets, do have like a softer lead, so they seem to be better at blending the colors together. So that's exactly what I've been using these lighter things like the cinnamon and the beige red for. And if we just continue down, obviously none of the greens. The dark indigo again was really useful in those shadows, just to give a bit of a blue tinge to it. I know you can't really see it here, but it's a bit more prominent on the nose. You can see little blue streaks running through those darker patches. And obviously all the grays, I pretty much used every single one of them in their respective areas. So as well, you can see here on the neck in those lighter areas, I've really tried to use those cold gray 2s and 1s in order to blend those darker browns to the highlights. And then coming down, I used some of the darker blues and the lighter blues in order to do the sequins on his brow band here. I can't remember the exact ones, but the light cobalt turquoise and the sky blue were really beneficial to do like the highlights, like at the top of the head here. You can see little blue streaks running through there, and on like his blaze here, you can see really closely that you've got those blue little streaks running through, helping to increase that color saturation. And also within the bridal work here, you've got those darker blues like the dark indigo and the Prussian blue in there, just to again bring up the color saturation so those areas don't look dull in comparison to those really like vibrant orangey brown patches. And obviously the white pencil was used to do this white patches as well. So yeah, that's what the colors I used on this drawing. So that was a couple of examples of how I picked the colors for each of my pencil drawings. I hope you've been able to find something useful from this and that you've enjoyed this video. And if you have, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one, which should appear somewhat on screen around about now. So I'll see you over there. Cheers.